Welcome, dear viewers. Let me take you on a journey back in time, to ancient Greece, a world of wisdom, debate, and the pursuit of knowledge. Today, we'll explore an incredible story that's as gripping as it is thought-provoking. It's the tale of a unique duel not fought with swords or shields, but with strategy, intellect, and poison. Imagine for a moment the great philosopher Socrates, a man revered not only for his wisdom, but for his profound ability to challenge the norms of his time. Now picture his neighbor, a renowned physician, someone who prided himself on his medical expertise, a man whose ego was as sharp as a scalpel. The stage was set for a clash of minds, a contest to prove who truly deserved the title of the most skilled. But here's the twist. This wasn't a typical rivalry. There were no grand speeches or debates in the agora. No, this was a duel of life and death. The weapon? Poison. And what Socrates did in response was nothing short of genius, a move so clever it left an unforgettable mark on history. Think of it like a chess game, where Socrates was not just a few steps ahead, but was playing on a whole different board. This story isn't just about winning a title. It's a powerful reminder of how fear can cripple us and how the mind, when harnessed correctly, can be our greatest ally. As we dive into this fascinating tale, I encourage you to reflect on your own life. Have you ever faced a moment when fear took over, clouding your judgment? Perhaps it was an exam, a job interview, or even a personal challenge. This story will show you how Socrates turned fear into his opponent's greatest weakness, and how you can do the same. So, grab a cup of coffee or tea, settle in, and let's unravel this extraordinary story together. Trust me, by the end of it, you'll never see fear or your own mental strength the same way again. The Physician's Challenge, a battle of pride and poison. Let me paint a vivid picture for you. In the bustling streets of ancient Athens, where philosophers debated and healers practiced their craft, lived Socrates, a man whose name echoed wisdom across the land. Now, right next door to this legendary thinker was a physician, renowned, respected, and deeply proud of his medical expertise. One day, the king of Athens made an unexpected announcement. He bestowed upon Socrates the title of first physician. Imagine the uproar. To the physician, this wasn't just an insult. It was a blow to his very identity. How could a philosopher, someone with no formal medical training, be honored above him? His pride was bruised, and his ego demanded vengeance. Driven by anger and a need to reclaim his status, the physician came up with a bold and dangerous challenge. Picture this scene. He storms into the king's court, his voice echoing with determination. "I challenge Socrates. Let him and I each drink a poison. Whoever can heal themselves deserves the title of first physician." Now, stop for a moment. Think about what kind of person it takes to make such a proposition. The physician was certain of his superiority, perhaps even a little arrogant. After all, he was a master of remedies and cures. But he underestimated one crucial thing: Socrates' mind, his wisdom, and his understanding of his opponent's vulnerabilities. The king, intrigued by the unusual contest, decided to play referee. He set the duel for 40 days later, giving both men time to prepare. The physician likely returned home, confident in his ability to concoct a deadly poison and equally sure that he could neutralize it. He must have imagined himself triumphant, the crowd cheering as he reclaimed his honor. But what about Socrates? In the face of such a lethal challenge, he didn't flinch. No outburst, no signs of fear. With the calm demeanor of a man who had already played out every possible scenario in his mind, he accepted. It was as if he knew the outcome before the game had even begun. This moment was not just a challenge of skill. It was a battle of pride versus wisdom, ego versus intellect. The physician relied on his hands, his potions, and his pride. Socrates, however, relied on something far more powerful: his ability to understand human nature and the incredible influence of the mind. And that's where the real brilliance of Socrates shines. As the clock ticked down to the fateful day, he began preparing, not with herbs or antidotes, but with a strategy so cunning that it would become the stuff of legend. This wasn't just a duel. It was a showdown that would reveal a truth about fear, pride, and the strength of the human mind. And trust me, the twists that followed will leave you questioning everything you know about how we face challenges. Stay with me, because this is where the story gets truly extraordinary. Socrates' plan, a masterstroke of psychological strategy. Now here's where Socrates proves he wasn't just a philosopher. He was the ultimate strategist. Faced with a challenge that could have meant his death, most people would have panicked, scrambled to prepare antidotes, or tried to back out. But Socrates? He played a completely different game, one that didn't just test knowledge, but manipulated the very mind of his opponent. Picture this. Socrates gathers 3 of the strongest men in Athens, not to protect him, not to fight for him, but to execute a plan so subtle, so brilliant, that it would shake his opponent to the core. Their task? Pour water into containers and pound it noisily, day after day, within earshot of the physician. It seems almost ridiculous at first, right? What could a few men clanging and pounding possibly accomplish? But here's the genius. Socrates understood the power of the mind, the way curiosity can spiral into obsession and fear can magnify into terror. Imagine the physician sitting in his home, trying to concentrate on his own preparation. Day after day, he hears the rhythmic pounding. At first, it's just a noise, a mild distraction. But as the days pass, the sound becomes something more, an insistent, inescapable reminder that Socrates is preparing something. Maybe he tries to brush it off, but the human mind loves to fill in the blanks. Is it a potion? A poison? A substance so deadly it will defy any antidote? The pounding echoes in his mind, growing louder and louder. Not just outside his home, but within his thoughts. We've all been there, haven't we? You hear a strange noise in the middle of the night, and your brain immediately goes to the worst-case scenario. Is it just the wind, or is someone trying to break in? That's the trap Socrates set, turning a simple sound into a psychological weapon. For 40 days, this relentless symphony of fear played on. By the end, the physician wasn't just preparing for a duel. He was fighting a battle within himself, against his own imagination. Think about it. Every time he heard that noise, his anxiety likely grew. Did he sleep soundly at night? Or was he tossing and turning, haunted by visions of Socrates stirring a cauldron of doom? The fear wasn't in the poison itself. It was in not knowing what was coming. Socrates didn't need to brew a single drop of poison because he was crafting something far more powerful. Doubt. Doubt that seeped into the physician's mind and mixed with his own pride, turning into a cocktail of fear and uncertainty. This wasn't just a plan. It was a masterpiece of psychological warfare. And by the time the 40 days were up, Socrates had already won half the battle without lifting a finger. It's a powerful reminder of how fear can amplify itself when left unchecked. Socrates knew that the mind, when consumed by anxiety, can become its own worst enemy. And what happens next in this story? Well, let's just say the physician was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The day of the duel, a tale of wit, poison, and unthinkable fate. It was a day like no other, a day when the whispers of the court turned into a roaring crescendo. The sun, high in the sky, seemed to cast a spotlight on the makeshift arena, where wisdom and vanity would clash in a duel for the ages. The crowd was restless, their murmurs weaving a tapestry of suspense and disbelief. For there, under the watchful eyes of the king and the court, stood Socrates, the philosopher known for his sharp mind, and beside him, the physician, a man of science with a reputation for his deadly concoctions. The tension was thick as the moment of truth arrived. Socrates, calm as a mountain untouched by the winds of doubt, took the chalice handed to him by the physician. It was filled with a dark, viscous liquid that seemed to whisper promises of imminent death. Without hesitation, he raised it to his lips and drank deeply, as if it were nothing more than a cup of spring water. The transformation was immediate. His skin, once vibrant, turned ashen. A tremor ran through his body like the first rumble of an impending storm. The crowd gasped as a fever gripped him, beads of sweat forming on his brow. Was this the end of the great philosopher? Had he miscalculated his ability to outwit the physician? The tension was palpable, each heartbeat in the crowd echoing like a drumbeat of doom. But then, something miraculous happened. Socrates, with the precision of a craftsman sculpting his masterpiece, began treating himself. Drawing on remedies he had prepared and his unparalleled understanding of the human body, he worked methodically. Within an hour, the pallor left his face, his trembling ceased, and he stood tall once again. A murmur of astonishment rippled through the crowd. The philosopher had done the impossible, defeating death itself. Now, the tide turned. The flask was passed to the physician. This was no ordinary vial. It held a substance Socrates had meticulously prepared for 40 days. The crowd leaned in, their breaths held as if time itself had paused to witness this moment. The physician hesitated but, driven by pride and the need to uphold his reputation, drank the liquid. For a fleeting second, nothing happened. And then, as if struck by an invisible hand, he staggered. His face contorted in pain, his knees buckled, and he collapsed to the ground. The duel was over, not with a triumphant cheer, but with a stunned silence. The philosopher had not only defied death, but had outwitted his challenger, leaving the crowd with a story they would tell for generations. This wasn't just a battle of survival. It was a clash of intellect, preparation, and a deep understanding of the world's mysteries. It's a reminder that sometimes the sharpest weapon isn't a sword or a poison, but the power of the mind. What can we learn from this? Perhaps that true strength lies not in overpowering others, but in mastering oneself and the challenges life throws our way. Socrates' revelation, the power of fear and the mind's untapped strength. Picture the scene. The once rowdy crowd stood frozen, their gasps hanging in the air like unspoken questions. Before them, the lifeless body of the physician lay sprawled on the ground, a man defeated, not by poison, but by something far more insidious. All eyes turned to Socrates, who stood as calm and unshaken as a stone in a raging river. The king's gaze was heavy with confusion and unease. "What witchcraft is this?" he demanded. And then Socrates, with the poise of a storyteller unveiling the final twist, lifted the same flask to his lips. "This," he declared, "contains nothing but pure water." The crowd gasped. Could it be? He tipped the flask back and drank deeply, his every movement a challenge to the collective disbelief around him. A moment of silence fell. When no harm came to Socrates, whispers spread like wildfire. Was this man a sorcerer? Socrates addressed the crowd, his voice calm but commanding, each word sinking into the hearts like a stone in a still pond. "I did not kill him," he began, his eyes scanning the sea of astonished faces. "What you witnessed was not the power of poison, but the power of the mind, his mind. Fear unchecked and unchallenged is a poison far more lethal than any substance." And it was this fear, this belief in his own doom, that destroyed him. The crowd erupted into murmurs. Some looked at the physician's body with pity, others with newfound respect for the philosopher who had turned the world's understanding upside down. Conclusion: the real poison is fear and imagination. Socrates' words struck a chord because they revealed a truth we all know but rarely confront. How often do we let fear dictate our reality? How many dreams are abandoned because of the mere thought of failure? It's said that during a plague in ancient times, many died not from illness, but from fear itself. Their minds, consumed by panic, weakened their bodies and hastened their end. Think of it like this. Fear is the shadow of a mountain. It looms large, dark, and terrifying, but step closer, and you'll see it's just a shadow. The mountain may be steep, but it's climbable. Even today, this lesson is as relevant as ever. Consider athletes who psych themselves out before a big match, or public speakers who crumble under the imagined judgment of their audience. Or remember the famous story of the placebo effect, where patients given sugar pills often experience real healing, not because of the pill itself, but because they believe they're being treated. Socrates' revelation was not just a lesson for his time, but a timeless truth. Our greatest battles are often fought within. Fear, doubt, and imagination can either be our greatest enemies or our most powerful allies. And now, dear viewer, it's your turn to reflect. What fears have held you back? What mountains have seemed too tall to climb? Remember, the real poison is not in the challenge itself, but in how we perceive it. So, let's confront those shadows, step by step. As the dust settles on this centuries-old tale, let's pause and reflect. What truly happened that day wasn't a battle between a philosopher and a physician. It was a battle between perception and reality, between the shadows of the mind and the light of truth. This story holds up a mirror to our own lives. How often do we let fear whisper in our ears, shaping our actions, paralyzing our dreams, and distorting reality? Fear is like a master illusionist, conjuring nightmares that feel real but vanish when confronted. It can make a harmless dream seem like a raging river, or a small setback feel like the end of the world. Socrates' lesson is clear. Your mind is your greatest ally, capable of incredible feats of creativity, resilience, and courage. But like a blade, it can also cut you if wielded improperly. Think of a tightrope walker. Their balance depends not just on their skill, but on their belief that they can cross. One wrong thought, one doubt, and they fall not because the rope broke, but because their mind did. Take Thomas Edison, for example. He didn't see his thousands of failed attempts to create the light bulb as failures. He reframed them as steps toward success. Imagine if fear had ruled him. We'd still be lighting our homes with candles. This isn't just about grand philosophies or historical figures. It's about you. Maybe you've hesitated to start a project because you fear failure. Maybe you've avoided a conversation because you fear rejection. Fear, left unchecked, turns into a wall we build brick by brick, trapping ourselves inside. But here's the twist. That wall? It's made of glass. Once you stop fearing it, you can shatter it with a single push. So, as you finish this video, take Socrates' lesson with you. The next time fear creeps in, remember, it's just an echo of your imagination. Face it head on, and you'll find that most of the time, it's nothing more than smoke and mirrors. And now it's your turn. What fears have held you back, and how will you overcome them? Share your story in the comments. Your courage might inspire someone else to conquer their own shadows. If this story sparked something in you, hit the like button. Subscribe for more tales that uncover life's deeper truths, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder of their own strength. Remember, your mind is a tool. Make sure it works for you, not against you. The greatest lesson to take from this video is, he who is defeated from within will never triumph, no matter the resources at his disposal, while he who is victorious from within will ultimately triumph, no matter how long it takes. Until next time, stay curious, stay fearless, and keep writing your own legendary story. See you in the next video.